Hey guys, Dave here. Lately, it seems there's a storm of LDS apologetics, mostly attacking, discrediting, using character assassination and so forth against, let's say, the CES letter that has brought so many people out of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And then they've been barraged with all this media. I think the number one thing on Netflix recently, don't know if it is this week, has been Murder Among the Mormons, discussing the Mark Hoffman, forgeries and bombings and so forth. Basically, the fooling of the LDS prophets with their superpowers of discernment, and the fact that Gordon B. Hinckley lied to investigators, etc., etc. I haven't actually watched the thing, but I've read enough on the Hoffman things to know that it brought serious questions to a lot of people's minds about the truth and authority claims of the LDS Church and its priesthood leadership. And it just marked one of many instances in which we've seen so much scandal and fraud exposed, both in the church's rewritten history and its dealings with being exposed and coming up with the gospel topics essays, especially on topics such as the whole DNA thing, not matching, not working out too well for the Lamanites, the American Indians, to actually be what the Book of Mormon stated that these guys were, or reasons for pulling a 180 on the doctrine that African Negroes could not receive the priesthood in Mormonism until the millennium, which is what Brigham Young taught, and basically they were forbidden from having the priesthood through scriptures that Joseph Smith supposedly translated from the writings of Abraham, except the church has admitted, well, actually, none of those papyri had anything to do with Abraham, and we're agreeing that, yeah, the Egyptologists translated it correctly, and Joseph Smith was 100% wrong on everything that he said came from Abraham, because this stuff was written, about 2,000 years later than the biblical story of Abraham would have him alive and so forth. And then, of course, the supporting translation of the Egyptian hieroglyphics, Joseph Smith was also 100% wrong on that. So the reorganized church, now the Church of Christ, the church that Joseph Smith's family continued with after his murder, and Hiram's murder and Samuel's murder, most all likely engineered by Brigham Young and the Danites. They came out and said, yeah, it's fraud, it's fraudulent. We've tossed that out of our canon of scripture. So, in addition, recently to the Netflix drawing a lot of attention, a good friend of mine who's not LDS contacted me and said, hey, look at this. I said, yeah, I'm aware of it. So he's watching Netflix and seeing this because a lot of people are seeing it, and a lot of people are seeing what's in the Salt Lake Tribune very recently, which is the very famous Huntsman family, again, famous for philanthropy and the hospital business there, and politics. John Huntsman Sr., John Huntsman Jr., very well known in politics, both in the state and where we had a delegate to United Nations or consulate with China or whatever, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, these people have lots of political and power ties, and so is his name Jerry? Yeah, so he's suing the church for $5 million in tithing that he wants back because of the big news. Was it a year ago? Maybe it's been a year and a half ago since the big scandal, or since the whistleblower came out and, who was high up in the church finance and investment business there, came out and said that Ensign Peak Advisors, a church-owned slush fund, had accumulated well over $100 billion through investing church tithing money, and it was sheltered from income taxes by being set up as a charitable support organization. Problem with that seems to be that they never in 22 years made any charitable contributions. And disbursements, which Mr. Huntsman was disturbed with, included bailing out Beneficial Finance Corporation. Is that the correct exact name? Beneficial. So they had Beneficial Insurance, and what insurance companies do is they invest their money somewhere else when they take that money so they can pay out claims. And Beneficial got into not just the loan business, but kind of loan sharky business. The kind that the Bible condemns. I put them right up there with the loan shark gods. Beneficial Finance, Ames Home Loan, and Household Finance Corporation, HFC. All of those guys are noted for really sticking it to you. And so Beneficial wasn't doing real well during the subprime crisis. And Ensign Peak Advisors wrote out a $600 million bailout check. Is that what we're calling charitable contributions? Bailing out loan sharks that the church owns? So that, and I guess they put about $1.5 billion into City Creek Mall, a commercial venture, high-end mall in Salt Lake area. Salt Lake Valley there, in Cottonwood area or something like that. So, or maybe it's right across, plus they redid the mall across from the church. I don't spend a lot of time in Salt Lake, but Gordon B. Hinckley, president of the church, had assured the Latter-day Saints, we're not using tithing money for that. And so on some little technicality, we're saying, well, it's not exactly tithing money. We'd had it over at Ensign Peak. Of course, that's kind of an illegal disbursement, I think, basically, if it's supposed to be a charitable support organization. But I guess that upset high-profile Huntsman enough that he's suing the church. He wants his tithing money back and wants to give it to church, to people who are groups that are marginalized in the LDS theology and teachings and culture, basically. So, Negroes of African descent who couldn't receive the priesthood, and LGBTQ community, I think. That's what he's saying. So he's going to give it to, those groups in particular, and probably others, maybe women in general, for the misogyny basically taught in the church, which is pretty much straight out of the Bible. So, and transferred into the temple. Women had to bow their heads and say they'd obey their husbands. And if you read the Jewish portion of the Bible, it's not very politically correct. Then again, Russell Nelson's been changing things because Jesus is changing his mind on a lot of things, even though he's an unchangeable God and will cease to be God if he changes, according to the Book of Mormon. Then again, the Book of Mormon, God had Jesus and God the Father as one in the same, and that kind of got changed. He said, behold, I am Jesus Christ, I am the Father and the Son, according to what's recorded in the Book of Ether, chapter 3, verse 14, I believe. Check it out. It's in your Book of Mormon, people. It's in that same that chapter where the Lord, whoever he is lying to the brother of Jared, telling him he's the first dude that's ever seen him. 1100 years after he was face to face with Enoch in Moses chapter 7, speaking to Enoch as one man speaketh to another, and that's the retranslation or whatever Joseph Smith imagined should have been in Genesis chapter 7. Same place where the Negroes got, well, the people of Cain, the Canaanites turned black after they killed some other people, the people of Shem. And then that's been cross-referenced to Abraham chapter 1, which says the Canaanites can't receive the priesthood because they're the cursed lineage of Cain, basically. And that Egypt means that which is forbidden. Of course, that was written by Abraham, right? Except for Egypt. That's a Greek word, and Greek didn't exist. 2200 BC or 2000 BC or whenever Abraham was supposed to be alive. But then again, churches admitted Joseph Smith said he got that off of the tablets all written by Abraham, or the papyra, but no, I guess none of it was from Abraham. But he was inspired by God to write all that stuff, even though he was lying about saying he got it from Abraham. We'll just forget about that. That was a lie and go with the rest of it, even though it's got false facts in it like that, and references the Chaldeans there 1,000 years before they would have been there, and says that Pharaoh means king by royal birth, and references Jehovah coming down to talk with Abraham as he's about to be sacrificed on an altar by these Canaanites, where Joseph Smith or somebody else drew a Negro priest head on top of the body of Anubis, the Egyptian god. And yeah, he was going to kill Abraham, but Jehovah came down and said, hey, my name is Jehovah and I came to save you from this Canaanite, and then he kills him. Except for the name Jehovah hadn't been invented by the Catholic monk Raymond Martini for about another 3,300 years, because that was like in the 13th century, 1257 BC. Would have been Yehovah at that point anyway, because the J and the V weren't in existence when the anglicized version of the Latin name that he invented for the Jewish God was invented. So why is it in the Book of Mormon, and why is it in the Book of Abraham, and why did Joseph Smith say he was praying in 1823 to find out if a supreme being existed, and published that in the Times and Seasons for Church History in 1835, if he had seen God the Father and Jesus in 1820? Probably because he hadn't made that one up yet. Well, at least not that version of it. So a lot of things are coming into public view that have escaped the view of a lot of Mormons, because Mormons are just in this little, you're trapped in this little ball. Your life is so encumbered with all the things you got to do for church. They keep you so busy, and then they got all of these correlated manuals and materials for study, and they just kind of they keep you busy with manuals that avoid references that might get you thinking, isn't that contradicting this other scripture? Or isn't that contradicting what we had in the, stuff we used to read when they were referencing things Brigham Young said in the, General Conference of the Church, and were recorded in the Journal of Discourses, which everybody was supposed to have until they weren't, and they said, give us all those things back. We don't want you to be looking at that stuff because we're about to contradict it. Kind of like Russell Nelson contradicting what a year before he had said about the November 5th announcement that children adopted by gays couldn't be baptized in the LDS church until they were 18 and denounced their parents' lifestyle, which Thomas Monson gave as the word of the Lord, and which Russell Nelson, then president of the 12, said was the word of the Lord, basically. And then I guess Jesus just changed his mind under pressure. Yeah, that's what it was. So there's a lot that's getting into the public view through other media, the Salt Lake Tribune and so on and so forth. I mean, when Hoffman did this stuff in the 80s, the bombings and so forth, there were a lot of people that left the church because they found out things that they just wouldn't see if they were only reading what the church told them to read. Kind of the way that Jehovah's Witnesses do the same thing, keep you busy, keep you on the stuff that tells you, don't listen to those other people saying bad things about the Mormon religion. They're antichrist. They're listening to Lucifer. Lucifer's supposed to be the same guy as Satan, and nothing in the Bible supports that, but that's what the Christians say. And they took that from the Christians while still getting, portions of the endowment in the temple from the Freemasons, who, highest authorities say the best God is Lucifer, and then the damn Jewish God, who all you got to do is read the Old Testament and find out, he supports human sacrifice, murder, rape of women, and just horrible treatment of women in general. It's a commandment to kill people if they're gay. That's in what Leviticus chapter 20, something like that. I mean, I don't want to get off on a tangent here or anything, but the contradictions to the the changing of doctrines, the changing of the history, rewritten, whitewashed history. It's not a new practice. Catholic Church has been doing that stuff for a long time because they are the tool of the Roman Empire, and the Mormon Church has been doing it from the very beginning as well. And when people find this out, it becomes problematic. So all of us folks who do find that stuff out, well, they just say, "You're with the devil." That's what they were saying. In fact, we've got stuff in the church's Book of Doctrine and Covenants just condemning certain individuals and saying that, they've left the church, they're speaking out, so they've aligned themselves with Satan. People like me, we're going to hell and staying there. We're not getting that. We don't get to get out after 1,000 or 2,000 years card like Adolf Hitler and Mao Zedong and these people, and to get to go to this get to go to this celestial kingdom, but just don't have the family sealed together business and whatever other variables they may be. And their glory is that of the star, compared to the brightness of the stars, compared to the moon, compared to the sun, depending on how obedient you are to your Mormon leaders. So Adolf Hitler, maybe it had something to do with them, something like 11 million Jewish people being killed. Not the Jewish elite, just the people we wanted to sacrifice so that, along with the work of the Anti-Defamation League and so forth, ADL, well, nobody'd go against stealing land from the Palestinians and establishing Israel, for starters. So, a lot of people leaving the LDS Church. They say, we got 16 million members. That's more than 15 million, which we were claiming. But we're selling churches. A friend of mine sent me, not just a friend, a very important friend, sent me something that she had, and an LDS church for sale in Florida. I took photos, some screenshots of that. I'll do it in a different video. It says near the beach and has really big bathtub. The baptismal font. It was funny. I took some photos recently of the, on the newer side, LDS Chapel. On the newer side, it was probably built around 2004 or 5, in La Costa, in a very nice area where I lived, about a block away. And we'd always been taught, the Lord's house. It's, of course, the Lord's house officially in Mormonism is the temple. I doubt if it's in a state of disrepair, but the one in La Costa is kind of an eyesore now. Can they not afford to pay? Oh, that's right. They don't want to pay people to do the landscape maintenance or building maintenance. They decided the members needed to do that. I mean, I was a member when I actually worked for the church, but at least I got paid $6 an hour or something, right? It was a long time ago. $6 an hour wasn't great money, but it was better than $6 an hour is now. Yeah, so we were taught, hey, keep up your houses, paint your fences, mow your lawns. You're setting an example so that people will want to know more about the one true church, the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. Well, they got weeds like 20, 30 inches tall all over the landscape there, where Camino de los Coches and La Costa Avenue meet, if you want to check it out. Yeah, I would, if I lived across the street or something, I might be thinking, that place is an eyesore. I'm going to have to talk to the fire department or something. So what's up with that? You got $100 billion slush fund there at Ensign Peak Advisors, pretending to be a charitable support organization, and busted on their just immoral activity of investing this money and having loads of money, tithing money, and then like telling people in Brazil that don't have enough money to pay their rent, have you sold your television and your couch yet before you ask for the Lord's sacred funds? What the hell is this money for? They're waiting for Jesus to come back? Do a little study. You might decide you don't believe Jesus ever existed. You might notice he was an allegorical representation of Titus Flavius himself, who undoubtedly commissioned Mark and Matthew, and don't have a whole lot of difference there between their story and then Luke and John later. Inventing this guy who in his ministry goes from place to place, in the same places, in the same exact order that Titus Flavius, as the general, defeated the Jewish Messianic, rebellion against Rome. And then a couple of years later, a few years later, they start publishing, Mark's gospel and then Matthew. Yeah. And saying, render unto Caesar. Render unto Caesar. Turn the other cheek. Obey the government. That's the job of churches. That's why they get tax exemptions, people. The priest class serves to deify the government. If it's Pharaoh, king of Egypt, they deify Pharaoh. If it's a republic, corporation, they deify the offices of the republic, and that's very, very, very much in line with the whole theme that we find in the Book of Mormon, where they basically extrapolated upon the I'm trying to dig the word out here. Come on now. Manifest destiny doctrine. Yeah. So where the Israelite God basically, helped the colonists get free from England so he could establish a free people with a constitution, which is the ensign to the nations. Yes, because of course in Mormonism it goes it's extrapolated to the point where it's not just, for whatever reason, to get some freedom from the king. It's so that we could have a land where the gospel could be more easily restored, and the ordinances of salvation and exaltation established in God's true church, in the gospel fill the earth as the stone that was cut without hands in Daniel chapter 2. So that's what we've been taught. And instead of filling the earth right now, well, we've got churches for sale. we've got churches in where they're not pulling the weeds. Maybe the saints are afraid that they'll catch corona or something if they go pull weeds. Have the saints been scared scared slothful? Is that what it is? Why don't they hire somebody? You got $100 billion. Come on. Pay some people's mortgages. Give some people some jobs. Instead, you teach doctrines that cause Utah's #1 cause of death for children 11 through 17 to be suicide. That's another video. I've done it. So, is it just Satan raging in the hearts of people? Or do we have legitimate issues that are being brought public in the mainstream media even now by people of wealth and power, or on YouTube by people like me that have done their studying and are bringing this out on my website, Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub, where I attempt to concisely go subject by subject on the various pages, whether it's about the first vision or the DNA versus the, whatever subject we've got, and then have applicable videos in there, which is the combination that allows people to do what I did when I worked for the LDS church. Essentially, put a little earplug in my ear and have a cassette tape and listen to all the materials that they had in the church's library there, which would be the scriptures, all the BYU devotionals they had there, the general conferences. Of course, general conferences is something that is, it's the word of the Lord, we were told. Of course, other churches have general conference because it's just a corporate thing. Oops. Was I supposed to tell? Yeah, so you can listen to videos or while you're or watch things while you're doing something, and some of those videos of the close to 600 that I've done are lined up in those pages, subject specific, so that you can learn about the LDS Church history, the contradictions, the cult mind control, the results of these harmful teachings regarding sexual purity doctrines adopted, from the Christians and so forth, and the results they have in destroying lives, destroying individuals, destroying self-image, self-esteem, self-worth, self-identity, family relationships, finances, marriage, and ultimately, #1 cause of death for children 11 through 17 in Utah being where you've got, more than half the people are Mormon. Suicide. Heavy antidepressant use by especially women, rampant, especially in tough times, foreclosure and bankruptcies. What we found in a particular video I did is that the top 10 Mormon states were like top 9 out of 10 in like almost all of those categories, whether it's divorce or antidepressant use, suicide, foreclosures, whatever it was. They inordinately dominated these measures of things not going well. So I'm going to keep this video from going too long. I wanted to mention, recently John DeLynn was saying, we don't have, there's a great need, give me more money so I can make short videos, because he does all these Mormon stories. It's like a big need for him. Well, he's pretending he doesn't know about other people that, that actually do create videos. And one of my commenters mentioned, he said, hey, I had to try to keep to some 15-minute ones. Well, this one's more than 15 minutes. But does he not know who X-Molex is? She does very concise, 15, 10 to 20-minute videos on particular subjects. And does she not exist, John DeLynn? Do I not exist? I don't tend to do a lot of short ones, but out of close to 600, there's a few. Yeah, there are a few. You don't have to. You have to go into an hour and a half of detail or 40 minutes on every one that I do either. So pretending, oh, he just doesn't know about these people, really? You know, he's like I don't know. Anyways, controlled opposition, in my opinion. And I guess that's it for now. We've got a storm of stuff that's happened in the last few years. That's why we've got the Gospel Topics essays from the church hidden in the website, so you only find it if you already know there's a problem. And then they use more disingenuous rhetoric to try to discourage you from understanding what the real situation is, with whether it's Joseph Smith getting the Book of Mormon out of a rock in a hat, as South Park revealed to the world, which is not something South Park guys made up, but you know, it's recorded in LDS history. They knew it. They had the rock hidden. Then they brought it out. They're all okay, yeah, I guess that's true. We just have been showing you these pictures of Joseph with his magic glasses on, looking at the golden plates, even when his own wife said, nah, he's just looking at the rock in the hat. Same thing he did to, you know, tell people he was finding buried treasure for him. Only problem with that is, well, there's a few problems, and one problem, of course, is witchcraft is condemned in the Book of Mormon. Magic and witchcraft are condemned, and yet the prophet of the Lord was practicing. I mean, to set apart a seer stone, you have to use magic spells. Okay? They're just going to leave that part out, you know. Sweep the shit under the rug. Oh, gosh, I want a whole video and didn't say that terribly mentally defiling word off the spirit word, right? That's more mind control, but like I said, that's another video. Sun's going down, it's getting dark.